Open. Hi, Tim.
Hi, Judy. Good to see
Hi,
you again,
everybody.
Hello.
Maisha. And Craig's here. Wonderful.
I'll be online in just a few minutes here on camera.
Okay, great. Super.
Oh, Judy, can you help with the chat? Would you mind?
I will. Yes, I said that.
Thank you. Yeah, I didn't hear that. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'm also going to make you co-host, just so we got everything covered here.
All right.
Okay, wonderful. Well, I think we'll go ahead and start because we don't want to waste a minute of.
Hi, Jen.
Hi.
Hello, Jen. Yay.
Oh, and John. Wonderful. I'm so glad you're with us. It's been a long time. All right, wonderful. Well, welcome to the Edgewalker Café on September 25th, 2025. This is a very exciting Edgewalker Café because we have two of our certified Edgewalker facilitators that are going to be talking about the space between, leading teams through what's ending and what's emerging. And I imagine this conversation is going to go places that will surprise all of us because things emerge and we love supporting that emergence. And I'm just so delighted to have both Patricia Campanile and Hendrick Backerra with us, calling in from Italy and Europe right now. And I invite all of you who are here to put where you're calling in from in the chat. And just to think energetically as you do that, how we're drawing lines between the places that we're in and the spaces that we're in as interconnection, because that's what's going to change the world is really understanding how interconnected we are. So please put your name in place. Well, your name is already there. Put it where you're calling in from in the chat. And think about that you're drawing energy lines to the others in this call as you do that. So we thank you for that. So it's my great pleasure to turn this over to my longtime friend and fellow spiritual traveler, Patricia Campanile, who's been with me on this Edgewalker journey from the very, very beginning, like back to your beach house in Connecticut, where I was writing the book. So
I know the book wasn't even written, so
right. So thank you, Patricia. Please take it away.
You're welcome, and welcome everybody, and thank you so much, Judy, for your leadership and your vision and the space that you hold for all of us. Really grateful, and I'm very excited to be here today. And I'm especially inspired to be sharing this very important topic and focus with my dear friend and colleague, Hendrick. Hendrick and I met, we were just speaking in Mallorca many years ago with, Judy was there at an Edgewalker retreat, and I think it was 2009 in Mallorca. And we all, I mean, we've been friends. Hendrick, you and I have been friends ever since. We just had this instant soul connection, and we really all joined in the, in the Edgewalker vision and what was happening at that time. And here we are all these years later. So having that sort of constant thread of friendship and also our Edgewalker focus and the work that we each do in the world is really a gift that we're all still here. So just want to thank you, my friend, for being here. So Hendrick, Hendrick's in Berlin. I do want to say that. And he's really what a facilitator of deep change. So I know that you've been doing this work for over 20 years. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do with leadership and teams and why you were drawn to this topic today?
Yes, absolutely. But first, let me send also the web back to you, Patricia, and also to you, Judy, because it's so beautiful that we are connected, and also, Judy, that you give name to something where my soul said yes to, and a lot of people say yes to, but very open in businesses. There is not even a language for it. And so this is so beautiful.
Right.
And yes, and Patricia, you said, what was the question? Like, how do I get there to the topic?
Yeah, tell us. Well, I mean, I don't think anyone on the call really knows you. You're a
No,
deep change facilitator and you have your own
yeah,
consulting firm. And tell us, and you're also certified in the Edgewalker work, as I am,
yeah,
and as Judy is, and many of the people on the call are. But tell us, most people here don't know that know
yeah.
you. Tell
Okay.
us more about who you are and what you're purpose driven and what it is that you're really
Yeah.
passionate about.
Yeah, my great pleasure. So I'm now 56, so in Berlin, and originally grew up in Hamburg, and extremely curious man, and I wanted to prove things. So I actually studied at that time in Berlin economic engineering. And so this is where I started. I want to change the world, move the world. And of course, what I do, I go into the business and then engineering, like technology, like this was it. Then I realized very quickly, yeah, but that is not how I am structured, how I'm geared, what is interesting me inside. And so I looked again, and at another university, the UDK in Berlin. At that time, there was one teacher who was teaching what we call now positive psychology. The Csikszentmihalyi's flow and so on. He taught everything which is about consciousness and everything which normally is not taught at the university. And about creativity and all this, what I really love. And at that time, and it gave me a first harbor in myself, because I knew this whole area is something. This is what I want to bring out into the world. And the first step of bringing it out into the world was writing a book about creativity techniques. This is only in German, but also a book on flow, but the personal side of flow and how to find your own values, how to define this. So, Judy, no surprise that I was ultimately coming to Edgewalker, right? Because some sort of flow, it is walking on your own edge, basically. If you don't allow that, you're in bit in complacency. But so the positive psychology really coins it a bit like in a different way, but it's very close to this, and it's very
Okay.
sweet, right? And I really love that idea of speaking about flow, speaking about your inner experience. Then I first worked for IBM, and then quickly I decided I really want to be facilitator. So I make myself first. I get to a small group, and then I got thrown out, and then I become self-employed. Yes, it was. Yeah, that was a shock. Thought I'm not on my purpose. I'm on my mission. The universe should support me. It did. It did afterwards. It did actually. So because after I was thrown out, I got the biggest contract, and that was before
Wow.
we realized we shouldn't fly so much through the planet. So I was going, and we had the hypothesis that we are one global body of humans, and we teach everybody leadership or transformation in the same way. So I went to Russia and went to everywhere, Israel to India, and in this case, and at the same time was more and more inspired and with coaching and deeper spiritual practices.
Okay.
So yeah, and then I came to yes.
No. That's one of the things where I see you're so an Edgewalker, because you really bring the human side of leadership with systematic and strategic change and strategic focus. Your polarity thinking, that holistic model, is so much of I think what makes you effective, but also in the Edgewalker sense, it's the true integration of what you provide for your clientele, and particularly in the area of leadership. Yeah.
And this came to me really when I worked then closer at McKinsey for a while. I was trained at McKinsey as facilitator for transformation, I don't. Maybe some people know Gita Bellen, the spiritual teacher who made it very much in the business world, and she was like my guru for that time. She taught me how to teach meditation to leaders, how to get your ego in check, at least while you are facilitating.
Mhm.
And then I went into McKinsey. I worked a lot with companies to implement change and help develop programs where leaders can open up for themselves and look inside themselves to be better in adopting change and deeper in that aspect. So that's I've done until 2010 at McKinsey with McKinsey, and then from that time on until now, I have a small consultancy where I try to
Okay.
bridge that, a little bit like really like we saying you bridge both of the world, like the logic, like the
Mhm.
business side, but also
Mhm.
the heart side, the soul side to the
Okay,
table.
wonderful. Right. Thank you, first of all, for what you do and what you bring to the world and who you are.
Mm.
Because each one of us really make a difference, right? Whatever our inspiration and our path is. So thank you for sharing that. And um, when you and I first spoke about, I wanted to have you be our guest on the Edgewalker
Yeah.
Cafe, there were different topics we kind of discussed. What are we going to speak about? What are
Mm.
we going to focus on? And the one today is the space between leading teams through what's ending and what's emerging. What was it about
Mm.
that title for you at this time? Can you speak to that? What is it
Mhm.
that why do you feel that's important now?
Mhm. Mhm. Well, the level of disruption I see in my clients is so huge that I think we really need to speak about change in a different way, because that is and that's why I say the space in between is what makes a team.
Hmm.
Is like when something is
Hmm.
not yet formed, whether I will connect to Tim and tell him something which is not in my business, in my list of what I should do, but I'm my heart feels I should, like, if we are a team here in this group, I think in the space between, when things are not designed and which are not clear, if is what makes a team really thrive. And it's not an easy
Right.
moment, because I see
Hmm.
also often
Right.
organization close down, or there's so much change, come from the top to the organization, even if the people in the middle or lower are willing to do it. It's like the sheer pressure and not integrating this personal side of the transition is creating a lot of disruption in organizations, and a lot of not flourishing, let's put it this way, or
Hmm.
yeah.
Wouldn't you say that your role, or the role of many of us, regardless of what our specific work is or what we do in the
Mm.
world, is like it seems almost obvious to all of us, let's say on the call, where I mean, not all of us, but I think that I myself have been in situations like that with leaders, and it's so clear to me what's missing. The
Hmm.
interconnection, the consciousness, the whatever we want to call it. And I think that
Hmm.
so much is of our role is to help awaken people, for lack of a better word, or to um, to help them embrace that other side of themselves. Because by not doing that, it's a bit fragmented, wouldn't you say? Whether it's organizations or leaderships or teams, that's a big piece that's missing.
That the people speak about that subject, about that, like
Yeah,
the more soul level or emotional level, that is true. So, but I have to say, Patricia, say we awaken them. I'm not quite sure. When I'm in a workshop, sometimes I have to say they awaken me to my soulfulness. They
sure.
awaken me to
Hmm.
my humanness,
Right. Hmm.
because so
Hmm.
often, I'm coming with a thesis. I speak, and then the feedback out of the group comes like, woohoo, different or different angle to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then only
Sure.
when you adapt to that, then that's fine. So it's basically, I'm passionate about creating a we space where
Right.
it's there's not a real hierarchy. I'm happen to
Right.
be the space holder. I'm happen
Space
to
holder.
be like maybe because I'm not wedded to the financial or other results of the organization. I can more guide them what my heart says. Let's the hidden, also see the hidden parts, naming what people don't like to name in order to move on. So that's a little bit
Well,
what I'm.
and I think what's perfect is you are embodying through what you just shared, let's say in a workshop, the very thing that we invite leaders, you're modeling
Mm,
that to
mm,
allow, and I think
mm,
that there is an awareness that you have about that. There's an openness and a willingness that you have to understand that in holding that space, not only do you learn, but it helps them to get the aha, whatever it is. But
mhm,
it's
mhm,
not all leaders, in terms of being bridge builders, let's say in the Edgewalker speak. I mean, that's so much of what we're here to hold for people. It's not
mm,
that we have it all together, but we can model that. And you certainly do that.
mm. Mm. And what I hear, and that's true for me and true for a lot of people, I think, is that there is a huge distinction because between I intellectually know where I should go and what me as a leader is required, and emotionally go into that, and only be really present to this. So often, if I
Mm-hmm.
speak to leaders, and an HR person brings them to them, and he really needs to be empathic with their employees or with their middle management, I speak to them. They totally understand what's happening or what's needed. And when I'm seeing them interacting in the space in a workshop or so, I often only then understand what is the missing link. And then I build the bridge that they might
Mm-hmm.
not have
Mm-hmm.
understood each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure whether you're all in that field, my colleagues here. So, but yeah, I love to use simple frameworks, which are no, some of them are like specific, but most of them are known globally very much. And so the 4 levels of listening by Otto Scharmer is one energy I bring into a conversation with the top team, which always, like really always, let people sink into their depth without me even saying a lot, because I frame it in
Mm-hmm.
the beginning quickly. That's not if maybe I remind everyone, these 4 levels of listening is like we need to get to a specific space in order to manage that space in between. And Otto Scharmer says, well, the first level is basically replying and not being connected to the other person, but everybody keeps their worldview. So this is not really deep listening. But deep listening for him consists of 3 levels. The first level is I really listen to the facts of the other person. And I'm also sharing my facts to others as appropriate. We have limited time. So, but
Mm-hmm.
the most relevant things, the facts, they're often not listened to in teams deep enough. I'm
Right.
not sure whether
Mm-hmm.
already the
Mm-hmm.
facts. And then, or even the next level is we need to listen with our hearts. What
Mm-hmm.
what is the subcontext? Why is he saying? Is it, you know, and very often we make assumptions which are not true. So make this explicit, and then going deeper is really the point what I was trying to refer to when I said teams thrive in the space in between. Is if you have in that moment when things are not clear in your business or in the direction, you have a generative conversation. You connect to each other, and both sides don't know what the other results are of that conversation. You really
Mm-hmm.
co-create. You both not know,
Right.
and
And I
and
was,
then yeah,
go ahead. No, go ahead.
they both not know, and then that is such a, where as you said, it's sometimes such a very not well trained muscle of
No.
leaders, because they have been
Mm-hmm.
trained to know. and to be, but this sometimes creates smaller solutions because they only allow what they have experienced in the past. But the future typically is different than what we knew from the thought.
Absolutely. And the not knowing actually is a powerful leadership posture for times of transition, because in
Yeah.
holding that space and in being open to the not knowing, very often the solutions that may be needed are things that have never been presented before, something
Mm,
completely new, something that hasn't been considered, that doesn't
mm,
even isn't even relevant to what maybe is a knowing from the past. So that
mm,
involves trust and faith, and I think even vulnerability as a leader, not knowing, wouldn't you
mhm.
say? Saying that,
Absolutely.
but the deep listening also creates a space, and I think as a leader it's important in those spaces in between to create safety so
Mm,
that that can emerge. As I think we're very often in times right now where what's being asked of us is to listen and to those spaces of not knowing, so new solutions can be presented itself, because we're in a whole new
mm,
world now. We're in uncharted territory. Wouldn't you agree, in
mhm,
many areas? And I think that,
mhm,
in knowing you and Judy and so many of the people on this call today, is that the vision and the transformation that's required is really, these are the ingredients to have that be
mm,
fertile ground for us to
mhm,
move forward in a way that can
mm,
truly make effective change,
mm,
for
mhm,
everyone involved. Anyway, it's
mm.
your
No, well, the topic of the world is really, I think everybody is concerned about and with, uh, and for this is one topic. If this can't be spoken in a team, how they feel about it, you're excluding part of it. Like the inner
of course.
experience of people is important even on that subject. And I think this is maybe what happened on the planet now is similar to what happens in organizations. There's always this, in organizations we say we have the formal way of how we do business and the formal roles and so on, and then we have the informal web of
Mhm.
what is the real network, who is pushing things, and despite his role, who's making that links and so on, which is like the informal role. And probably we edgewalkers, we hope, Judy, as well, to be more outspoken in the public and say, let's all move there. And I'm about probably, I think, is we are more now the web underneath the people who believe those
Mhm.
things and talk about those things. Maybe because the top line, I think we cannot actually influence right now so much, and the top line is scary. But maybe under the top line, we can create something positive still, uh, and adapt.
Would you say, because I know, Hendrick, you speak a lot about, ego driven and purpose contribution, that
Hmm.
some of what we're speaking about, particularly you say from the top, is putting the ego aside and being more connected to what your purpose is, what your mission is, and coming from that place of contribution, and versus,
Hmm.
the ego identification. But that
Yeah,
involves also a personal journey as well as that organizational space, correct? People
yeah,
can't give what
absolutely.
they don't have, right? I mean, so when you work with leaders, um, it's not just the leader, but then the leader will impact the team. Obviously, sounds obvious based on
Mm.
where they're at, correct? That may sound like an obvious question, obvious statement, but mm,
Yeah,
yes
that's
or
where we
no?
want to.
Yeah.
Yes,
Mhm.
well, but the leader is the point. Is we need to also assess what kind of leader do I need to be in order to successfully lead the
Right.
team and the change,
Mhm.
which is a very
Mhm.
uncomfortable question to say, because when I've written a book about purpose. There is the easy answer is like, I only do what my passion is, simply la la la, and I go my ego way instead. But people often they face a lot of complex challenges, and they need to deal with that. And and this triggers a lot their personal their own
Sure.
journey, and like I've also worked a lot like in having a conversation in teams or whole organizations about their culture. And with one big bank in Berlin, or small but important bank in Europe, we have measured it. We have also, and then the leader defined what is important for them to lead successfully as humans, as leaders. And he said, ease with uncertainty is one of his highest goals. So it was a person
Wow.
who really manages like the European network financially and so on. And he chose that as his personal value, which is very clearly, you can only
Wow.
live that when you have a certain awareness of your own ego needs, or you're above that.
Well, thank you for sharing that. That's actually inspiring. You know, it's
Mm.
good for him. It's
Good for Europe at the case.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
we even
right.
meditated with this group
Mhm.
of people, right? So we
Really?
started having, yeah, we
Okay.
have talking about, like,
Mhm.
at McKinsey, they always say, Hendrick, don't be so esoteric. And, it was also a fun thing to say for them and so on, because they knew what I'm about, and, that I teach people meditation and stuff. But there it was like even requested, and they knew.
Mhm.
And one time we had a very pretty normal business thing, but we always meditated in the 2 days. And one time we were too busy, and one guy said, scrap it. And who am I to say no, we need to do it? So I scrapped it. And then and at the end of the session, they in the checkout, they said, oh, that was a good session, but could we do the meditation, please? It went so much better.
Yeah.
And it
Right.
was about real, and we are not talking about, we are talking about leaders who run a company who really is in this financial field.
Mhm.
So I think this personal insight, or this looking inside in you, is important for you as an individual leader. But when you make that move to that a team opens up to
Right.
each other in a way,
Mhm.
then suddenly that is a very the trust builds in a different way. Let's put it this way.
Absolutely. And there's more safety. Like I know when I used to do a lot more, sort of team building or organizational development work, that to the extent that the leader was willing to do what we're speaking about, it created a safer space for the team to do it. And what was interesting
Mm.
is what I'm thinking about when I lived in Naples, Florida. I worked with a government organization, and he realized as he shifted, he realized how much emotional and intellectual intelligence was being not expressed and not utilized for
Hmm.
the benefit of the whole, because people were afraid. They didn't have the
Hmm.
trust, they didn't have the safety to speak up, to ask questions, to create a dialogue. And when the leader was able to do that, or he asked himself, because I did more leadership coaching and then we work with the team, he recognized that he wasn't fully utilizing the power and the purpose
Hmm.
of his entire team,
Oh
because
yeah.
everybody was like this and people were walking on eggshells, right? So it did create that space. So trust is
Maybe
key. Mm.
trust, but trust. Yeah, there's an interesting, maybe an interesting story, Patricia, I would like to share with
Okay,
you as
sure,
well.
please,
Yeah.
please do.
So
Yes.
I work in all kinds of fields, and this is now a scale up, a huge. Funny enough, again, a banking client. So I was coaching this operation officer and his team, and every time I came, like boom, 200 new people, 200. It went like this: young middle management, very passionate. So the space was clear. They needed to be operationally much better, and they needed to integrate a lot of this change and so on. And now you had the boss who liked to be very direct, and I like to be very, sort of descriptive of things. And so the people felt a little bit like tight and not really being free. So I had a conversation with both of them, and I used at that point neurocolor, like this personal preference model, what people really need in the brain, and that you can learn to actually connect to the other person to build the bridge when you are, especially when you're in the space of things are not so clear. And the interesting story there was, as we found out that the whole middle management, they were not green like me, like people oriented and the huggers. No, little green, but they were very yellow. They loved innovation, creativity. They didn't care for structure. They wanted just to do things, and they're very upbeat, very fun. And they also, surprisingly, didn't care, or they liked it even, if the boss writes down what they should do after they have discussed what they want to do in a bigger scale.
Okay.
So suddenly his personality, which was often and a lot of people said, oh yeah, no, he is very powerful, but also very forceful. He can use his qualities, and the others were not diminished by being a little bit all over the place, because they had their very spontaneous personality, but they could play along with each other very well.
Oh, wow. That's wonderful. So that's unexpected. That wasn't necessarily what was expected at the time, but what that tells me is that they were, maybe not everybody needs the structure. Maybe they need more openness and more freedom to express authentically. That's what I hear. Would you say that that's an experience or a moment that helped leaders to orient from these perspectives? You know, that would be an example of something like that.
Very strong, because
Yeah.
you
Okay.
know, Patricia, because the self-hugging is inevitable. You know, like we see each other through these two eyes, and you know, I can speak every language, but in the end, you know, there is a certain conviction that my worldview is some sort of so true because it feels so true. And you need some sort of framework to understand the person is coming from another way of looking at things. So the transition is also processed in a different way. And suddenly we don't talk anymore about people don't like change, but much more like, are we actually talking in the right way about change? So people can align to that, can adopt to that. You know, also their emotional needs are met in that conversation.
Absolutely.
And just because I need often the hugging, or you know, I'm a group hugger,
Right.
others don't. So I'm, you know,
No,
I'm a
they don't.
wingman of
Right.
leaders. Yeah, they don't. I have leaders I really respect, very tough, very high level there. I'm a little bit their wingman, huh? So I know I will tell them if I think, you know, in my douchey heart that's a little bit too harsh, I will tell them and then no. But I will not try to make them a cuddle
Right.
bear. Why?
Right.
No, why should I?
Well,
It
I
won't
think
work.
no, I actually think it's not about making anybody anything. I think it's about creating a space where leaders and the teams can have a space to emerge into what is most powerful and authentic for them. And that so they know that they matter. They know that their voice is heard. They know that their contribution is in alignment. They know that they make a difference, because I think deep down, not just leaders, but the teams, the individuals that make up a team, everybody wants to know that they make a difference. Everyone wants to know that, you know, I matter. And so it's creating an environment to be able to do that. Because that's gonna create longevity and sustainability and expansion, and even ultimately, you know, transformation. So I think that it's very important work and very timely work for sure. And I think that the Edgewalker, you know, the qualities and the archetypes of change and everything really are key in integrating this into leadership and into working with teams. And because it's not just the strategic, but it's the emotional and it's the spiritual, and it all really comes together. So
without needing to name it spiritual. right?
We don't
That
have
is
to.
for me,
No,
because
right. Hmm.
I can be perfectly aligned with somebody who's agnostic in a way. It's like it's
Right.
more. I
Hmm.
would frame it as a human experience, like a full
Right.
human
Exactly.
experience. And we use the word spirituality for this, but it's for me, it's not so
It
far
doesn't.
away. It is not in the.
Absolutely.
It is not
Mm.
only in the worshiping rooms. It is in between us, between the two of us. It happens all the time.
Absolutely.
This
And I'm
connection,
looking at some
this
of the
is
chat.
trust.
Val, somebody wrote, it's having a beginner's mind or the holy curiosity, which I think is a wonderful. I haven't heard that. I've heard a beginner's mind, but holy curiosity is being
Yeah.
curious, you know.
Mhm.
And like Judy said, the archetypes of change help people to see the different worldviews and have a better
Mhm.
understanding of the strengths and growth opportunities in our own worldview as well as each other's. And having that,
Mhm.
you know, again, not to bring in the world or certain countries, but this division and this whatever is how, where, and how can leaders lead teams in times of such transition and so much
Mhm.
unknown, is what is the common ground and where and how can we find that.
Mhm.
Uh, I'm
And it
looking at it.
starts with the person. It starts that the leader really has the intention to do so. That is what
Hmm.
you just said, Patricia, is much more than filling a role or having his KPIs matched.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's, I always, this is one of the things that I've always respected about you, Hendrick, and the work that you do, but it does take courage to and commitment to hold that space and
Hmm.
to be the wingman, as you say.
Hmm.
But it's, I think a lot of us on this call would understand that. But I mean, that's why I'm so blessed to be part of this organization, because it is a
Hmm.
platform and a place where we can come together and have these dialogues and these conversations. So,
Hmm.
um, do we? There's so many other things we can talk about, Hendrik. I wondered if there's anything else you want to say, or do we want to maybe, we have such amazing individuals on this call. Do we want to see if anybody has a question, or maybe open
Yeah.
up the room here for any dialogue, or anyone that maybe wants to raise their hand or anything? Is there anyone that would like to make a comment or have a question for Hendrik?
Yes, please.
Anyone? Or not, but
Yeah,
it's,
I was inviting Tim Van Ness, who had some interesting comments in the chat.
yeah, I saw
To
that. Hi,
jump in.
Tim.
Tim, you want to
Mhm,
play, Tim?
Sure, I love to
mhm,
play, especially with
mhm,
all of you.
mhm.
Yeah, first of all, just what a pleasure it is to be in this circle and part of this community. And actually, Judy, you said there'll be a time for you to ask this question a little bit later on. And in a way, you actually kind of already answered it. What the initial question I had was around what moments or experiences help leaders recognize the possibility of orienting from the kind of perspective that you're suggesting, right? So then you told just after I asked that, you told the story of doing the colors work and Judy typing
Mhm.
out the archetypical work. So yeah, there are tools and techniques to do it. My background is, as Judy knows, we met like what 25, 30 years ago in international conferences on business and consciousness, and my background's in theater. So, and it's funny that you're bringing up this question around truth telling, because one of the first programs I developed with my former company back in the late 90s was something called The King, the Fool, and the Sycophant, which
Mm.
I think, Judy, you may have
Mhm.
seen at one of the conferences.
Right, I've seen.
In which it's basically a play that we dramatize a kind of a classic situation in an organization where people just aren't really being sincere with each other. And the CEO is like kind of trying to understand what's going on. Of course, the sycophant is saying, Rex, there's absolutely no problem. Everything's great. We're on track. We're getting our numbers. Everything's good. Of course, the place is a shambles, right? But nobody's actually speaking it. And then using improvisation to leverage the wisdom in the room about what needs to change. So making them all McKinsey consultants and saying, what needs to change in this system that you see going on? So in the last like 2 weeks, I've gotten passionate about revitalizing, bringing that back. It's something that I stopped doing in part because companies weren't wanting to spend big money on the kind of program that and what it takes to present this. But one of the things that I often ran into, and you've already spoken to it, is the courage piece. It takes the right kind of leader to be willing to hear the truth, right? And theater is a very elegant way of dramatizing it in a, and creating, interestingly, now we can talk about psychological safety. Back 25, 30 years ago, we didn't have that term, but that's essentially what we're talking about. Can we recreate the container and the environment where there's a little bit more freedom and people are a little bit, I like to say, a little bit more okay with the discomfort of speaking the truth. It's not about getting comfortable because it's not comfortable. Difficult conversation. But then, like, what do we do, and or how do we find the leaders that have that courage and are open to opening up at that level and actually really hearing the truth and playing, as Judy just said. So thanks.
Thank you, Tim. Hendrick.
Patricia, should I just?
Yeah, go ahead. Please do. Yeah, please
Tim,
go ahead, Hendrick.
Amazing. Yes, you need that space, and of course, again, it's any kind of art intervention and sharing creates that build bigger trust to name things as well. And what I typically use is a little bit like constellation. So I work with little puppets and so on, and let people share a specific situation to each other. And this level of suddenly looking in the inner dynamics of a person often has created really breakthroughs. Even, in a board level where somebody then, pushed, showed how he was, in the little format, he shared how he felt like he was backstabbed. And he named it in the group of his own colleagues. And of course, by naming it, how he felt, that was not their intention, that was obvious, but by naming it, it could get out of the system. But it requires, Tim, exactly what you said, this truth, this honesty.
Thank you, Hendrick, and Tim for your sharing and for the question. And Jen Fulton, I see you have your hand up. Do you have a question or a comment?
Yeah, I have a question. Well, the first thing, I actually have a comment first. Judy said you don't know what's going to emerge today. And I've been dealing with a clinical issue. I'm a trauma psychotherapist, for those of you that don't know me. And that has emerged into marrying family systems, trauma psychotherapy, and performance coaching, working with elite golfers on some global tours. But recently in one of my clinics, there was a disruption in the therapeutic relationship, and the patient terminated. And there's a time and a place for everything, but I was trying to figure out if I did something wrong. And what Judy said before, the archetype of change, helping them understand their strengths and growth opportunities of their own worldview, literally gelled something in my nervous system, and I can feel it integrating it, like literally. So I'm always open to change in these things because something always happens here, and it's so magical. So I just want to say thank you first. Sorry, I didn't mean to take up so much time. But
no, it's okay. It's important. Yeah, it's great.
Now you're even saying it, there's just this integration happening right now. But also, Hendrick, I'm curious about the integration piece with some of these leaders that you work with. So, sometimes I tell my patients that integration can take a couple of weeks to a couple of years. And I'm curious if you've had the same experience, or I don't mean to pigeonhole you, but like, is there an average time that the worldviews shift?
Well, yes, well, what I would use in this case is really more the idea of polarities, and that there is nothing to be solved or to be fully integrated or to, now I have solved it, I've done it, so, but much more that there are two topics in my life where I need to find a balance, like, adaptability to versus stability, being forceful versus letting go, and that these things are more the awareness that I need both parts and I need be more fluent in what I do. So because the old behavior might be actually still correct in certain other topics. So I wouldn't, make it fully negative. Um, um, So this is the deep answer, like the long-term answer. There is the way, going with this and playing with this, being playful with this is more my answer, to integrate and not, that is the first step, being aware what you want to integrate, which is, um, but
Is
on the
that
other side, when there is an insight of something, and then we create when you have an insight about, oh, I could actually be more demanding to my employees or be more clear with my employees, and then they try it out, then suddenly they can feel the inner freedom from this insight, this awareness, to the action. And typically it's exactly, Jen, what you feel now. It's a freedom in your chest. It's a breathing. The penny dropped
yeah,
in a way.
somatic, yeah.
It is a somatic drop, in a way, into the body, back into the body, in any cases. And this moment happened always in a split second. That is not long. But you're totally right. To get over, a specific change or deep problematic situation might take a long time. We all know that.
Yeah.
That the emotional body is not as quick as the mind. The mind say,
Right.
"Oh, I should have been done with this a long time ago."
Right.
No, you're not. I'm here again.
Yeah.
So yeah. So for me, one of these polarities is like going deep versus moving on. Because I have a tendency to go too deep and dig deeper. What is my problem? And which leads then nowhere. And then just move on is like the other polarity. So other people just move on and don't go deep. So then, that is a beautiful conversation then with these people. And if you click on a deeper level, then it helps to help both sides. Yeah.
Right. And Hendrick, I think that thank you for Jen, for your question and for being so open about what's happening for you. But I think that very often what I've witnessed, and this is even in my own life, when I move on too quickly, I'm either tend to repeat the same thing, or I don't fully get the learning, or I've missed something. So there is a bit of a discernment and a balancing act about when am I okay, I've gone deep enough and it's time to move on. So that's something I think that we have to all monitor as we, in each situation or as we go along. And Jen, I just want to make a comment. Sometimes I don't know what happened, we haven't spoken, but what I know is sometimes when someone is really at their edge, you may have whatever you do with your client. When, like I've noticed with leaders and I've been coaching for years, when someone's at their edge, sometimes that's when they want to quit. When you're actually ready for a breakthrough, it's like either they're going to step in and take that leap, or I'm out of here. So or it could be something in between too. But that's often what can happen. So sometimes we might lead somebody to a point, and there can either be resistance or a breakdown or breakthrough. It just kind of depends. So anyway, I just wanted to comment about that. And Hendrick, thank you for what you shared.
Jim has his hand up.
Okay, go ahead, Jim.
Thank you. I apologize for not being in the first half hour, but I'm here to express gratitude that it's recorded because I know it's going to be valuable. That's number one. Number two is I want to say where I'm at that directly relates to what I expect to hear in the first half hour and starting to hear now. I was in a ULab session for Be the
Mhm.
Tipping Point initiative I'm involved in, which is about transforming business education. And I was also supposed to be at the same time here and also at the same time working with Waukegan University in Hyderabad about how they're transforming business education. And I'm realizing there's a couple of places I'm walking along the edge of. One is the way we've taught management for 50 to 100 years. Planning, organizing, leading, and controlling, assuming an environment that's reasonably stable versus what we're into now, which is a very chaotic environment and a transition period of just complete chaos. So, and I'm realizing it's not a matter of rejecting one and adopting the other. It's a matter of dancing with the two of them. Because there are times
Right.
we plan, organize, lead, and control, and there are times what we need to do what we're starting to call on my team radically transparent co-creation, which is
Mhm.
Wow.
I think it's co-creation. And by the way, I'm like that French character who discovered his life he was speaking prose. I realized that I can go way back in my life and realize I've been doing co-creation, but didn't know I was
Mhm.
doing it. And
Right.
didn't know what it was, but it was just what emerged.
Mm.
And I think there's a couple things I want to do, and I don't have time to do it chronologically, unfortunately. One is it's time to create a free management textbook learning process that we give to the world for free. That is
Wow.
looking at managing maybe as jazz, as Frank Barrett's written about and others have written about. I think jazz is a metaphor for what we're doing in radically transparent co-creation, but it's a metaphor for the kind of productive activities, organizations, or whatever they are, that can move us forward and protect the planet. Of course, everything I'm going to do is about sustainability and regeneration, et cetera.
Mhm.
So I'm really grateful for the fact that this is recorded, the first
Mhm.
half an hour or so, and I could catch the second half an hour. And I would love to see Tim's play. I wish I were in a situation, I wish we were all in a situation where we didn't give a damn about your play because it's not relevant. But unfortunately, it's too doggone relevant right now. So thank you for letting me chip in and join you all late.
Thank you. Thank you for your sharing, Jim. That management book, it's like bring it on, right? It's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you.
I think
Thank you.
Amy.
Anyone? Go ahead.
I
Amy,
think
yes.
Amy.
Hello,
Yeah.
Amy. Go ahead.
Oh, unmute. Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Hi, Amy.
There's a couple of things. One is I had an experience with a vice president of HR from a major corporation, and he was so stressed and so concerned about how he appeared to his bosses, to the CEO, that he basically was not willing to even share with his people about how they can handle stress or what they can do with uncertainty. He didn't want to own it himself, which would have helped
Right.
them. So it's more than just helping the leader. You have to also look at the structure of the culture of the organization. So what
Of
everybody
course.
said.
Mhm.
So, but the other thing that I've done, which is a little bit like Tim's, is I created something called Shared Ownership for Success. And it's a large group change process. I've used it with 1,000 people in the Port of Singapore, 650 people in Tennessee manufacturing, and 7 people at Chanel. And it's based, the first part of it is based on Peter Block's work of creating shared ownership. What is shared ownership? What is accountability? What is commitment? So creating agreements about that. The second part is about, and what is functional and what is dysfunctional dissent, right? So people understand the difference. Then what I do is we have conversations that matter. I recognize that people do not have the psychological safety to say what they need.
Right.
So what I use is
Right.
world cafes. If you're not familiar with World Cafe, that was David Isaac and Juanita Brown's work. And what you do, you
Right.
put people in small tables, one person's facilitator recorder, you ask a question, they respond, she writes down their responses, right? And then after 15, 20 minutes, the facilitator stays at the table and the other people leave, go to other tables. You get a new mix of people, you ask the same question.
Mm-hmm.
After you do it 2 or 3 times, then each table reports. The first question I always ask is what makes you mad, sad, and glad? So first they take on mad and sad, and then they take on glad as the next thing. And then when they report, they look at what makes you mad, for example, and what are the 3 things? What are your 3 priorities? So each table reports, and then the whole room chooses one. And they come up with, they have to come up with a solution. They have a committee that has to report in 2 to 3 weeks. And the guidelines is it can't be a solution that takes 2 years. It has to be something they can do fix fast, a low-hanging plum, so that they have the momentum and feel good about moving on. And then what makes you happy, what makes you glad, how do we do more of this? And how do we begin to spread it through the culture? Okay. I'll ask questions like, what is your ownership in that which you complain about the most? Or, what is the possible future we want to create together, whatever it is. And
Right. Right.
I've created it in different places as edutainment. So what I'll have when I worked in Tennessee, I found out that 26 people there were preachers. So we created a gospel event, and we found one guy who could really, rock out on piano. So he did the breaks, and
Right.
we found out they had a gospel choir, employee choir. They opened and ended the thing. We had performance art. No one could be on stage more than 10 minutes, right? Including the consultant. Right, and different people would introduce different topics or different exercises or whatever.
Right.
And I found that model was probably one of the better ones that I've come up with or seen, because it really does give people a voice. It gives them the psychological safety. It gives them meaning to their work, all the stuff that's really, really important.
Right.
Once we have that, then I meet with the leader and I can say, okay, given the feedback that you got, what's your ownership in that which they're complaining about, So we pick one little thing and we go through the process for them. So I just wanted to share that with you.
No, Amy, thank you. That's a fantastic example and sounds very powerful and very impactful. I mean, Hendrick, what's your feeling?
Absolutely, like these
Yeah.
engaging if a group comes together new, and then we do World Cafes and think together, I do the assumptions these are the future team friends. So, and I do things which help, especially like the World Cafe, and it's amazing how deep people can talk when you have a more not such a formal space. And then it's much more, much nicer or much deeper in the conversations.
The other
Thank you,
thing,
Amy.
I just want to share one more thing, if it's okay. Is that all right?
Yeah, we have a couple of minutes.
Yes,
so,
yes,
okay,
and that is given that everything is in transition. I think it's really important to teach, Peter Drucker, the founder of modern management, said the first task of a leader is mastery of your own energy system, and then you orchestrate that of others, okay? I think it's time to teach people energy movement. We're talking about being in the flow, but are they aware of their own energy and their habits and how you move into the flow? Because when you make a decision, it might sound really good, but if you look at the ripple effects, what are the ripple effects? And then if you look at the ripple effects of those ripple effects, what happens? And we tend to see it as energy movement, so I think that energy mastery piece is a really important piece today. I'm done.
No, Amy, no,
Mhm.
thank you for your work and what you shared. It was
Thank
extremely
you.
valuable and impactful. I see there's one more hand up, but I don't know if we have time. I think, Mary, you had your hand up, but Hendrick, I want to make sure if there's anything else you want to touch on. I know Judy has some announcements. I also, Hendrick, put your website in the chat so people know how to get in touch with you and they could take a look at your site and your work.
Mhm.
So I did put that in the chat. But Mary, you had your hand up. Was there anything you wanted to ask or comment about? Because it's just at the top of the hour now.
So maybe you can write something
Yeah,
down what you take away
yeah,
from this
yes.
hour just on the chat, so we have a
If you
little
could
bit
put
of
it on the chat. Yeah.
just a thought or an idea or an emotion or something you want to do.
Okay.
Yeah, Maisha. Yes, that's true. Need to keep going when we don't see it. Where it is the new beginning, really. Yeah, lovely. Yeah, that's what it's meant, ours, that we all remind each other. So when I go into transformational workshops, very often in the end, people then say, "Oh, it wasn't that hard," or "It wasn't," it's like the issue. In your as facilitators, we need to have the space that there might be an elegant solution, which I don't know which one it is, but that this emerges out of the conversation.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Wonderful. Great reminders and support. Yeah,
Thank you so much.
that's why I said the support, the collective. I learned some things to hear what other people are going through, their ideas. I mean, I think all of it is that's part of the power of the cafes too. Hello,
Yeah.
Rosemary.
Judy, I just want to put one word into this conversation: liminal. I think we're talking about liminal space.
Right.
Yep. Yes, there's a beautiful
that's the
book
word.
on that is the word. There's a beautiful book on liminal space that I can send this on. Yes, absolutely. It's a in between. It's a moment in the space in between.
The space in between.
And often the caterpillar doesn't know that he's still a caterpillar. How often have you noticed you thought, I'm flying around, and then realized, oh, there is another liminal space waiting for me. I had no idea about.
Right.
This is a real transformation. Oh no. So even
Exactly.
though I teach change, I like stability as well. So we need to, but living that dance is, I think, life in the right way.
Absolutely. Thank you, Hendrick. Thank you. Wonderful seeing you all here and being with you. And Hendrick, thank you so much for, I think today was very rich and relevant and important and just very inspiring what you're doing. So I did put your website on there. Is there any other way people can contact you? Is that the best way, or you want to put an email
Please
in?
link on LinkedIn. This is a classical one. Don't go, just follow me, but add as friend. Or I'm very stalkable on any social media. If you like my art thing, that typically Instagram still is the platform where I share those things, because we didn't speak about that part, is that but I strongly believe that art is important for any leaders to make sense out of what happens around him. Yeah,
Very connected to the
find
art.
the yes. Lovely.
Yeah.
No,
Thank
please reach
you.
out. Yes, and
And
I
then
see
this
you
will be
also. You're
this will be
showing this.
recorded.
Yes.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Hendrick. What was that?
I'm
Oh,
already reading also that myconsciousness.org. I will check that out. Sounds very good.
Okay, very good. Thank you all for your sharing. And Judy, do you have any announcements or anything you want to make about
Yes,
the
absolutely.
next cafe or anything with Edgewalkers?
Yeah, thank you. Rather than go into all the details of what's going on, because things are exploding, or maybe emerging is a better word, but it feels kind of explosive right now because so much is happening at once. It's kind of like we have at least doubled in our offerings in terms of we are doing 2 cafes a month. One of them is a series on AI from an Edgewalker perspective. So that happens once every month. And then another cafe that would be like this with either a guest or a topic. And so those are, you can find those by subscribing to our Edgewalker newsletter, which you can do on our Edgewalker website, or go to the website itself. We usually list what's coming up next. We also have 2 retreats coming up. One is for Edgewalker facilitators like Patricia and Hendrick, people who are trained in the Edgewalker work or who would like to be trained in it. We're having a gathering here in Fayetteville, Arkansas, followed by a public spiritual retreat or consciousness retreat for the public. And that's at the end of October, and it's all on the website. We also have another certification program coming up, and we have a new Substack account where we talk about some of the things that come in the cafes. And so, Hendrick, we want to invite you to share something on the Substack so that the conversation can continue. So those are some of the ways you can get involved and keep these conversations going and share what you have to share. There was an awful lot of sharing of good ideas from people who are working in these spaces in between and who are building bridges today. But Hendrick, I just, Hendrick, more than anything else, I love your presence.
Yeah.
And that speaks more to me than, you're highly competent. You're so wise in all these different technologies. You have a mastery of knowing when to use which one. But there's something deeper about you that really calls me in. And I feel so honored that you've shared your time and space and wisdom with us. And Patricia, thank you so much for bringing.
This feeling's mutual.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Hendrick. Thank you,
very
Judy.
Beautiful, and it's so important that we come together and support each other. And,
absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll say one more thing about that, Hendrick, just to reinforce what you're saying. As Edgewalkers, as change makers, change agents, we often feel on the margins of a system. It's an edgy place to be. We don't fit in the mainstream, right, Maisha? I see. We don't fit in the mainstream, and we don't want to. But it's very lonely, and sometimes we wonder if we're crazy. And why are we doing this? It's so hard. Why are we doing this? But we're compelled by our passion, our purpose. And it's like we can't be who we're meant to be if we don't stand on the edge. But to be able to tap into community, at least occasionally, and to know that we're not the only crazy ones, that others share our vision of something that's better than what we currently have. And so that's why we do this. And that's why we do our workshops and our retreats and coaching and anything else we do, is we just really want to give courage to the Edgewalkers that are in the world right now and bring out more of Edgewalkers are in every single human being. There's an edge in every person, but we want to affirm that and amplify that, because the world dramatically needs what Edgewalkers are. So,
absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judy.
Thank you,
Judy.
Hendrick,
This may be
my
coming
friend.
from This may be coming from ego, but I sometimes wonder if we're actually the sane ones.
Right.
Craig, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Would you say that again?
Oh, I said this may be coming from ego, but I sometimes wonder if we're actually the sane ones.
Right.
Well, we know we're committed to being the conscious ones. That we know.
Right.
Yeah.
And Craig, I used to say that I'm not the black sheep in my family. I'm the white sheep. And I don't mean that. I don't mean the entire saying we're all the black sheep. It's the white sheep, but we're all there's a lots of gray. Let's put it that way. But,
Yeah, well, we need each other. That's clear.
Yeah.
Thank you all
Thank
for
you.
being here.
All right. Have a good rest of your evening, day.
Mm.
Hendrick, did you? Yeah.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everyone.